Hello and welcome, everybody. It is going to be a banger of a live show tonight. Let me just go ahead and say that because there's too much. There is simply too much to talk about. I had a whole show planned today about the Big 12 and the ACC and Notre Dame and basically the entire college football world outside of the SEC and Big 10 going to war with the SEC and Big 10. And that is the language that was used by a Big 12 athletic director in a Ross Dellinger story. A complete banger of a story that was put out by him about just how contentious everything is getting between the Power Two and everybody else in the next iteration of the college football playoff. Lest you thought it was just me trying to push a narrative here, it was basically all confirmed by Ross Dellinger in the way that he framed everything in his article. And look, I don't have any crazy inside info on this. I'm just reading what's being reported about how the battle is going down between the Big 10, SEC, and everybody else, and bringing it to you, bringing that story to life. And that is what we have here today. There is a lot more life behind this. As I was planning all of that and had that ready to go, basically doing an entire show on one article, Greg Sankey threw out a quote where he was taking a shot at the Big 12 right before I'm about to go on air. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going to talk about Supreme Leader Sankey and the way that he is ruling with an iron fist in college football right now, has no time for the little plebes that are the Big 12 and the ACC and everybody else. And then right before I hit play, right before I hit go live, Clark Williams, who is the VP of comms for the Big 12, caught Sankey in a lie. Sankey was mentioning a press release that the Big 12 and ACC had put out and taking a shot at the leagues because of that. And this press release did not exist. Sankey gets caught in a major lie. Now, I've got to admit, SEC fans, those of you who I know love to tune in to hate watch, look, I did not think when I called Greg Sankey Supreme Leader Sankey that he was actually inventing his own propaganda like Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And yet, literally about 10 minutes after I tweeted that about him, he did that. He did exactly that. Invented his own propaganda out of thin air. So I don't know if we're going to hear a story that he invented basketball or he hits a hole in one every single time he golfs or whatever. All those things that have been made up by Kim Jong-un that are propaganda over in North Korea. Maybe we'll hear some of that about Greg Sankey pretty soon. But on this channel, you're definitely going to hear about the lie that he got caught in by the VP of comms of the Big 12. So, I mean, we have that. We've got the story about, unfortunately, the Presidential Commission on College Sports being paused, but it's being paused in light of a couple of articles that came out and mentioned the SEC and Big 10 are basically scared of Cody Campbell. They are worried about the ideas that they feel like he could push on this commission as the guy that really was the trigger man, and that they were worried about him getting too close to Trump and that being something that could push forward something that the Big 10 and the SEC wouldn't like, a more equitable future of college football. So, boy, this is getting crazy, man. This fight is getting real. And I told you guys the other day, this is all about how close it's getting. We are getting close to the point of no return on these things. If some of these things happen that have long been talked about, discussed, rumored, if some of those things actually happen, it's toothpaste out of the tube. It's college sports changing in ways that are irreversible. And everybody senses the gravity of this moment. Even the SEC and Big 10 on their side. They're voting on things. They are approving things. They are getting ready to potentially make some of these decisions. But even they are going a little bit slower than perhaps I thought because they recognize the gravity of all of this. And they know how much pushback they're getting from literally everybody, even Notre Dame now. They understand full well, and everybody does, and that's why this has turned into what is now being framed by those involved in it as a war. Ross Dellinger's own words were a brawl. He called it a brawl that is taking place between everybody. So this is getting very, very contentious, and I will try and break it all down for you as appropriately as I can here on the show today. So thank you all for being here. Please do like the video as you file in. Please do subscribe to the channel. Those of you on Twitter, big Twitter audience already tonight, I would expect a pretty big one. if you can just go over to YouTube, search John Kurtz, click the subscribe button, click the like button on the video. That would really help me out as well. But glad to have you all here. I've got a really good Open for Business Big 12 newsletter headed out to your inbox bright and early tomorrow morning. You can subscribe to that at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com in order to do that. So like the video, subscribe. Oh, yes. If you want to be like Starter 179, who I'm going to get to his super chat in just a moment, click the $ below the chat box. That will guarantee that your question or comment makes it on the show tonight. Also a great way to support the channel. Appreciate everybody who does that. You can also hit me up on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 to do that. If you're not watching live, that's a really good way to do it. Because I will get your question or comment on to kick off the next show. So even if you're not watching live, you can still be a part of all of this. And I do want to say, even though to me it's been basically a work day today because I had this, I had Open for Business, and then K-State landed PJ Haggerty today, top 5 portal player. So we did a live show there. It's basically been a work day for me, but it is Memorial Day. So I do want to thank everybody for their service in that regard. And I always think of today, my good buddy, Justin Sisson, and the sacrifice that he gave for this country back in 2013. So thank you to my guy, Justin. Thinking of him, thinking of you, and anybody else that has served today. Okay, let's get going here with Starter 179. What's up, Starter 179? All right, Starter 179 says, this is the first I've seen the media turn on Sankey. If he's so confident in his programs, why does he care about the Big 12 and ACC so much? I think Sankey is showing how weak of a leader he is. You're not the first person that said, like, hey, you know, when leadership starts to get a little shaky and people get a little rattled, they start slipping up. And this is definitely a slip up. I will get to it in just a moment. Maybe I should have gotten to it before this from Starter 179. But Sankey did get caught in a lie. The other thing I would point out, Starter 179, is that this comes on the heels of like the CBS story really went into more detail about what the SEC and Big Ten did not like about the Presidential Commission, and more specifically, Cody Campbell, our guy. We ride for Cody Campbell. More specifically about Cody Campbell and what they feared he could do with President Trump by getting in his ear and make changes that would derail all this progress the SEC and Big Ten have made in establishing themselves as the complete alpha dogs of the sport. You're starting to see some cracks there. And like, for as much crap as I get from SEC fans, hate watching, hate commenting, all of that stuff, and I get it. If I were in their shoes, I would be doing the same thing. Like, I understand how this works, but I'm not wrong. Like, you can disagree with me. You can look down on me. You can look down on the Big 12. That's all fine. But what I've been saying recently is, hey, Cody Campbell is in a position of legitimate power here, and he's got President Trump a direct line to him. That's a legitimate threat in terms of what he could do to shape the sport better for everybody rather than just better for two conferences. I said that, and bam, what happens? Now we get stories pouring out. Yahoo, Ross Dellinger said that in a story. CBS Sports said it and elaborated on it. And now here we are with another story that's saying everybody's at war, that it's a total street brawl. Sankey's getting caught lying. Like, this is very, very legitimate battle going on between everybody involved right now. So that's what we've got. Starter 179. Sankey certainly loves to play like I've also called him Sith Lord Sankey. He certainly loves to play the villain. He's pretty good at it. I think that's a part of what he was trying to do today, but he slipped up in doing it. He slipped up. So here we go. Here we go. Okay. Greg Sankey got caught in a lie, and I'm going to get to the specific details on that in just a moment. But it's not just that. It's also that is at the forefront, on the front lines, if you will, of what is now being deemed a war between the Big Ten and the SEC and everybody else. And that has been on full display at SEC spring meetings, which historically have been a very quiet thing happening. Not so quiet at all this time, and not so quiet at all in this major Ross Dellinger story that is out there. You can find it linked on my Twitter at JL Kurtz if you want to go read it, but you're going to get plenty of it here in the show. And I'm telling you, like, guys, go follow Ross. He's dropping stories like this like twice a week that are just must read if you want to be informed on what is going on in the college sports world right now. So I mentioned the SEC spring meetings. Ross Dellinger says SEC old-timers believe it to be the most consequential gathering in the history of the conference. Quote, it's going to get heated. So that's one SEC administrator who said it's going to get heated because they're looking at the future of the playoff format, which is obviously where a lot of the controversy comes in. They're looking at what they want the future of NCAA governance to look like. They are also having to deal with all the frustration over NIL, this Deloitte operation that is going to look over fair market value deals, the state laws that have been put in place, for example, in Tennessee, that we're trying to supersede that. The fact that now all the Power Four conferences are trying to get people to sign away their right to sue if that gets stopped. All these things, right? And all of it comes right on the precipice of hopefully the House settlement and the revenue sharing era, but we're 40 days out and we still don't have that thing approved, which is another stressor, I think, on everybody involved here, which is probably amplifying a lot of the frustration in all of this right now. So here we go. Okay, as far as the college football playoff battle, that is where most of this is coming down to. This is where most of the battle is happening right now. Dellinger says a year-long simmer of format negotiations has reached its boiling point. There exists serious pushback in the proposed format from not only the ACC and Big 12, but from Notre Dame and some of the other Group of 6 conferences. Listen to this. In this street brawl, Ross Dellinger calls it a street brawl. It is 2 against at least 4 other conferences plus Notre Dame. During their meetings last week in LA, Big Ten admins solidified their support for the 4-4-2-2-1 format. SEC, Big Ten get 4, ACC, Big 12 get 2, Group of 6 gets 1. The SEC has the chance to do the same this week, and if they do, here to me was the most telling quote from the entire article. Dellinger says, and what if they do? What if they do approve that format? 4-4-2-2-1. 4 auto bids for the SEC and Big Ten. Quote, I guess we're going to war, said one Big 12 athletic director. Okay, that's a Big 12 athletic director saying, I guess we're going to war. Woof. Okay. Well, here's how all this is going now. So that's the Big 12 being like, all right, come on, guys. We dare you. We're going to war. We are ready. It is Braveheart. We're standing here ready with our spears out. Bring it on. And then Sankey responded by trying to throw out a snarky little shot today, like literally just tonight within the last hour or so. Here was the Sankey quote, first and foremost. Greg Sankey from his SEC media session in Destin, quote, I don't need lectures from others about the good of the game or coordinating press releases about the good of the game. He references the Big 12 and ACC releases in wake of seeding vote last week. Okay, well, first of all, when I mentioned Sith Lord Sankey trying to play the villain, this is certainly a good way to do that. It certainly seems like a guy who is very annoyed, feels like we've got all the power. Why do we need it? Why am I getting pushed around by you guys? Why am I having to deal with this annoyance, this gnat that keeps coming up and is not allowing me to do what it is that I want to do? There's only one problem here, ladies and gentlemen. This is all well and good, and it would be pretty typical fodder. And, honestly, as much as I hate what Sankey is saying here, there is a part of me that's like, okay, well, this does make it certainly entertaining. It provides content, but there is one big issue here. Here's the VP of communications from the Big 12, Clark Williams. Shout out to my guy, Clark. He says there was no press release from the Big 12, let alone a coordinated one with the ACC regarding straight seeding. Whoops. I guess that's a little bit of a lie that Greg Sankey just got caught in there, that Clark Williams has pointed out here. And, it's funny. I'm glad that Clark said that because initially when I saw that Sankey quote out there, I was kind of like, man, wait, what is he talking about? Like, what is he talking about? It's like, I don't remember a Big 12 release and certainly not a joint one with the ACC, but I kind of just let it go because I was a little more focused on, all right, well, Sankey's really trying to ratchet up everybody is ratcheting up the temperature here. The Big 12 AD is feeling comfortable enough saying we're going to war. Ross Dellinger is saying it's a street brawl. And now Sankey is saying, hey, I don't need lectures from you guys about the good of the game. And I'm like, all right, well, everybody is just clearly ramping up the rhetoric and very frustrated with each other right now. But then, dude, if you're going to come correct. Don't come lying about press releases. Like, what is this? What is this from Sankey? And this, guys, when I tell you that the Big 12 is so much different now than it used to be, and it is thanks to like the spirit basically of what Brett Yormark does, the tone that he sets at the top. This is exactly it. Here's your VP of comms being aware of what's going on, checking Twitter and coming out and setting the narrative straight. Instead of being completely reactionary and being pushed over, it's setting the narrative straight. I love that. I love that so much from Clark Williams and company in the Big 12 there. Woo! Sankey, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? That's, I guess, the setting the scene for this going to war thing. But what does that actually mean? Other than Greg Sankey literally being like Kim Jong-un and making up propaganda that is completely untrue. Hopefully the SEC offices are not just a bunch of like big cardboard cutouts that are set up that look like really nice shops that you can just push over. What does it actually mean to go to war? Like, what move does the Big 12 and or ACC and or Notre Dame or anybody else have here if the SEC and Big 10 want to do this and move forward with this format everybody hates? Because they, according to the memorandum of understanding for the next iteration of the playoffs starting in 26, they've got the power. They can do what they want as far as decision-making goes. Well, how about this? We talk about going to war. This would be going to war. Billable hours, lawsuits. This is what the article from Dellinger says. According to most who have viewed the memorandum, the agreement grants the Big Ten and SEC control over the format, but directs them to have, quote, meaningful consultation and collect inputs from the other conferences and TV partner ESPN. Have they satisfied the agreement's language to hold meaningful consultation? Some do not believe so and have sought legal counsel over the validity of that document. Okay, now that is getting very interesting. How much does everybody hate billable hours and lawsuits and all that that's been happening in college football? Everybody does. You know, we've had the ACC stuff going on where they had 4 lawsuits in a couple different states. We have the House lawsuit obviously being a thing. Everywhere you turn, you know, there's these lawsuits over, you know, NIL and different state laws that are coming out. Everywhere you turn, somebody is bringing a lawyer to the table. Title IX. We're talking about Title IX and revenue sharing. 1 billion different lawsuits. Do the SEC and Big Ten want to have to deal with that? And do the Big 12, ACC, whoever it is that's seeking legal counsel, because we didn't get the actual name there of like what party it is that has already sought legal counsel on this. But whoever it is, do they really want to call the Big Ten and SEC's bluff that much? Because that's what it would be. I mean, you can say, hey, we're going to war. That is really going to war. And that is really, really calling the bluff of like, all right, SEC and Big Ten, how serious are you? How serious really are you about pulling away and doing your own thing? You're so sick and tired of everybody else. You're so sick and tired of dealing with this. You think you can just do this on your own. It's not going to cause you long-term damage. Fine. Go do it, because otherwise you're going to have to pay for all these lawyer fees in court, and you're going to have to just deal with the headache of being in court and wondering what's going to happen with this. That is really getting down. Like, this is when Florida State was parsing through the old commissioner. Was it Swafford? Whoever the commissioner was, they were accusing of nepotism and getting that down and dirty in the ACC lawsuit. This is the equivalent of that. Like the Big 12, ACC, whoever it is, getting really, really into the weeds on this thing to try and sue over that. I am not a lawyer. I have no idea. If you're going to ask me, like, how likely is it that would work? I have no earthly idea. I have no law degree. I have a communications degree. That's it. I've got no law degree, so I don't know what to tell you. But what I do know is that would really, really make Greg Sankey angry if that were to actually happen. The other thing that is very interesting about this and the battle brewing here is that we got details from Dellinger on another playoff format in consideration and what is being pushed apparently right now by the Big 12 ACC and everybody who is not Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti. And that is a 16-team bracket. So you can write that pretty much in pen. It's going to be a 16-team bracket. And it would be a 16-team bracket with just auto bids for only the Power 4 conference champs and the best group of 6 champ. So only conference champs and then 11 at-large bids. And the article says this concept is supported by the Big 12 and the ACC, and it's one that Sankey has kept in the conversation. Well, if you're looking at that and being like, well, hey, wait a minute. Is that really what the Big 12 wants? I understand your trepidation there. I understand your hesitation because I think that's one that would guarantee you get less Big 12 teams in the playoff. Say this lasts for 6 years. I think you would get less Big 12 teams in the playoff than you would if you just signed on the 4-4-2-2-1 model. If you sign on the 4-4-2-2-1 model, you're getting 2 teams in every year. If you don't, you're at the mercy of getting at-large bids, and then you're fighting it out with everybody else. We saw what happened this year. BYU, if there were a 16-team playoff, should have been in. Based on blind resumes, should have been in, but they would not have been in. They didn't get legitimate enough consideration there. You'd be running into that problem, I think, more years than not. So why? Then you ask the question, why would the Big 12 support a format like that? Because they are focused on the bigger picture. They don't want to sign a piece of paper that says we are literally half the worth of the Big 10 and the SEC, which is what you would be doing if you sign on the 4-4-2-2-1 plan. They also are just thinking about the symbolism of standing with everybody else and saying, hey, we're not going to let these guys push us around and push us into something where it turns into not only kind of an invitational, but once that happens, if they get the 4-4-2-2-1, a big part of this is obviously the SEC and Big 10 the SEC wants to play a 9th conference game, and then the SEC and Big 10 want to have a scheduling agreement where they're playing each other in the non-con, so they're locking everybody else out from playing them in non-conference games. And that completely cuts everyone else out. It just further entrenches themselves in a monopoly kind of way without actually just doing their own thing. So it pushes them way further down the road of just getting everything that they want, being secluded, and having every single advantage to the point where, there's just no equity at all in this thing, while not having to completely pull away and risk antitrust lawsuits and all of that. That's what happens here. And so that's why you would stand against it. The ACC also is going to feel more comfortable about this because had it been a 16-team playoff this year, they're getting 3 in. So it's a little bit different. A little bit different for them. They can feel a little more confident in this, at least for the next 5 years, until whatever's going to happen in 2030 with their league. And then at that point, it's like, all right, Notre Dame is standing against this. The ACC is standing against this group of 6s. Are we going to be the ones to say, well, hey, it actually, we could get a handful more playoff teams probably if we just went with their plan? Are you going to stop at this point? No, you're not. I keep using that Braveheart analogy. Like if I'm standing there on the front lines and they're like, hey, man, here's a spear. What are you going to do? Are you going to turn around and walk away, or are you going to be there with the group and fight? And that's, I think, really the situation that you are in as far as this goes. So, yeah, and that's where the rest of the article goes. There's one problem with that format, the format Sankey has kept in, which is the 16 teams with 11 at-large bids and only auto bids to conference champs. It doesn't allow us to do play-in games, said one SEC school administrator, and I'm not sure we'd have the votes for a 9th conference game either. So, yeah, the play-in games part of it, too, is that they want to do away with the conference championship game and instead have it be 2v3, 4v5, whatever it would be. I think I have that wrong. 3v6, 4v5 to see what teams would get the 3rd and 4th spots in the championship game. That's the whole system they want to set up. Right. That's the whole system they want to set up. And this would thwart that. So it is legitimately a real burr in the saddle, real thorn in the side right now of Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti and company that they're getting this kind of pushback. All right, let me hop into some super chats here. Appreciate all of you guys. Papa Bravo is here. What's up, Papa Bravo? Greg Sankey, the George Steinbrenner of college football. Why recruits when you have the portal and NIL? The George Steinbrenner of college football. Papa Bravo, I'm not well versed enough in George Steinbrenner and Yankees history, I guess, to really fully get this. Okay, but I will make sure. I'm going to let this stand on its own. Why recruit when you have the portal and NIL? Well, you still got to do. Look, football. You got to do some. You got to do some recruiting. You got to do some high school recruiting in football. Still, you got a big enough roster. Basketball, you literally basically could just pull it off, trying to use the portal. Although I think we have seen enough examples of teams failing a bit trying to do that wholeheartedly. Starter 179. Starter 179 says, could the Big 12 tie the SEC and ACC in a huge antitrust lawsuit? Also, the Fed's getting involved if the presidential commission has power. Well, yeah, I mean, look, I know there's always been talk of like, would it be an antitrust situation if the SEC and Big Ten broke away and did their own thing? That's always kind of hovered over everything. The presidential commission, there was one of the stories that said, hey, maybe it could come back within the next 90 days. Ted Cruz and some others are working on this, trying to get some bipartisan support for some legislation. I don't know. I'm always very skeptical of much getting done in, the House or the Senate, wherever it is that you're trying to get something. I don't know. Presidential commission had me a lot more optimistic about that, because if you can get the president's attention in this administration, that seems like you have a much, much greater chance of something popping off. But unfortunately, right now that's been put on pause, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. So yeah, I mean, the Fed's getting involved if the presidential commission has power. Like, that's your best bet. I mean, I still will continue to say that. Like, that's your best bet for getting something real, tangible accomplished here. But thank you, Starter 179. How long is the contract with the Power 2 having this power over the model? Well, let's see. I forget if it's like 2031 or 32. Next college football playoff contract it will be for the 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31 college football seasons. So through 31, which really, you get to that 30, 31 area, everything starts to blend together for me, because that's when we really expect change, the next wave of conference realignment, or move to some kind of super league or whatever it is going to be. So yeah, you're talking about a span of 6 playoffs, 6 college football actual playoffs occurring under the rule of the Big Ten and the SEC, the way it is right now. Okay. We got to talk now a little more about Project Rudy, because this is another real gem from the story that Ross Dellinger put out there. Project Rudy, Super League, backed by private equity, private capital. And there was a lot of talk about this. I have said the Big 12 should advocate for this. It now appears they are. Cody Campbell definitely advocates for the principles of the Project Rudy Super League proposal. Cody Campbell, Texas Tech multi-billionaire mega booster, who is, if it ever happens, going to lead this presidential commission on college sports. But also, one thing we need to discuss here is, if you're a Big 12 fan that's been against private equity or private capital, what Ross Dellinger has in this story is going to pin you in the corner of like, okay, you can be against it, but you're going to be playing a totally different sport than everybody else. So let's discuss all of that. He begins this section of the story saying, the divide among the 4 power leagues is more evident than ever. Latest example was a recent clandestine call that several ACC and Big 12 school presidents and high-ranking athletic administrators held with leaders of a private equity-backed Super League. Okay, so Big 12 presidents and athletic administrators had a call with the private equity-backed Super League. He later, he doesn't specifically mention Project Rudy, but he later links to his article that was written about Project Rudy. So Project Rudy, everybody pools their TV rights together. So no more conference individual TV rights. Everybody pools it together like the NFL into one big TV deal. Smash Capital, who is the one proposing all of this, says that it would be worth $1 billion extra per year in college football if they did this. 70 teams. You could then, after selling the TV rights, divide everybody up into regional conferences that make much more sense. So you'd get back to more like your traditional type of conference setup. and then you'd have relegation, promotion. It would still be skewed toward bigger brands and teams that win more. They would get a bigger chunk of the revenue distribution. So bigger brands, bigger teams, ostensibly would still have a lot of the same advantages that they do now, and it would encompass 70 teams. This is a key part of what Cody Campbell has written about in the Federalist is everybody using the Sports Broadcasting Act to pool together their rights here. And that's what the Big Ten and SEC would not want. They would want no part of that because then they will lose some of their power. It would make things more equitable for everybody involved here. Even though they would, according to this plan, make more money than they're making right now, they would be losing some relative power in doing this. So that's the Project Rudy. So what this means, the ACC and Big 12, like they're still trying to push this. They're trying to put the pressure on with this. And I said when Cody Campbell was announced as one of the co-leaders, and now it looks like basically the leader of the presidential commission because Saban's kind of bowed out, at least bowed out of anything but an advisory role. Like that's, you should be complete. That's what you should be pushing. They should be in every single politician's ear right now about this. Cody Campbell should be texting Trump, tweeting him, truth socialing him, whatever it is. He should be doing all that and telling him like, this is what we need. Go look at this Project Rudy. Go look at this private capital setup. Like this is what we need. You should be full court press on that. And it seems like the ACC and Big 12 definitely are. The story does say the call was had without the involvement of the commissioners of the ACC and Big 12, which is interesting. And it was the second Big 12 ACC joint meeting since December with those from Smash Capital. So they've had a couple in that'd be the last 6 months, couple of meetings in the last 6 months between the ACC, Big 12, and Smash Capital, who is pushing Project Rudy. It is a $9 billion cash infusion that comes from the capital, Smash Capital venture here. Okay. Now, as far as private capital, so that's where right now it seems like most of the talk with Big 12 and ACC over, private equity, private capital would be, hey, put this cash infusion into the Super League. They believe it would just blow up and everybody would make more money. I think I certainly would. Who doesn't? Like, again, I know SEC and Big Ten fans are going to be like, no, we want all the power. We want all this. Who doesn't, for the greater good of college football, want regional conferences? Everybody's still making more money, including 70 teams. So you just preserve like the soul of the game instead of where it is that we're going, which is slowly stripping it away. It is it's just no argument that it's not a better system for the future of college football, for the betterment of the sport overall and what it is that we all know and love and what we grew to know and love. Okay. But as far as private equity goes in the rest of the world here, this is a very important point, I think, to make for anybody who's been really skeptical about the Big 12, or if you're like an ACC fan or whoever, if you've been skeptical of your conference getting involved with private equity, this is a really important section of the article for you, because what it is basically just pointing out the unfortunate reality to you that like everybody's doing it. And I know that's not always the best reason. Your mom would tell you growing up, like, you say, well, hey, Joey and Jimmy, they're doing it. And say, well, if Joey and Jimmy told you to jump off a bridge, would you do that? The point being, if everybody's doing it, doesn't really make it right or something you should be doing. But here, you're just going to get left completely in the dust if you don't explore private equity and private capital. Okay. So Dellinger says the ACC and Big 12 schools are not alone in their foray into this world. While they are against Super League ideas, both the SEC and Big 10 are exploring a private equity or private capital infusion. Big 10 administrators received presentations last week at their spring meetings from 4 firms jockeying to purchase a piece of the conference. That had been previously reported, but now confirmed here by Ross Dellinger. Big Ten's taking bids, man. We're setting up shop. 4 different private equity firms can get involved here. We'll take the best offer. Meanwhile, how about this name? SEC officials. Who do you guys think the SEC is using? Private equity, private capital. Who do you guys think the SEC is using here? Goldman Sachs. SEC officials are using Goldman Sachs, a multinational investment bank and financial services company, to further examine the concept. And then Dellinger says, even the richest need financial help. Even the richest. Okay, well, you think about the financial advantages that the SEC and Big Ten already have, as we are headed into this world of revenue sharing, maybe, and the House settlement, maybe. They've already got this huge edge where their TV contract's going to be like, we're pushing double the payout. Now they're going to get a private capital infusion on top of that to take in some extra money. I mean, at that point, if you just want to even stay at the same rate behind the SEC and Big Ten that you are right now, Big 12 and ACC, you're going to need to get involved in the private equity, private capital game, or else they'll just be lapping you even more. And if you want to say, well, long term, it won't be good for them. I mean, okay. But in the short term, they will lap you so much that they will absolutely, I brought up the Josh Pate quote where he said already they're playing a different game based on the number of draftees. You think they're playing a different game now? You let the SEC and Big Ten take private capital, private equity money, infuse that into their conference. They will be playing a completely different game at that point. It just take that times 2. So you'll have to do it just to keep up. And I know this goes back when this first came on the scene that the Big 12 was considering some private equity or private capital. A lot of the pushback was, well, if you do it, if you're the first to do it, Big 10 or the SEC are just going to look at it and they're going to do the same thing. And then you'll just still be that far behind. Well, this is kind of that like working in reverse order. Like it looks like they may not wait for you to even be first on it. It's just going to be like the next step that's like more table stakes to continue trying to stay in this game. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm not saying that that's a healthy thing. I am saying that that's the reality if you want to be able to afford players and keep playing with these guys. Like in any semblance of playing with these guys. That's where this appears to be headed. So I'm just pointing that out to those who have been the real haters on that idea. And I don't say that to like disparage you. I understand. I understand the negatives that come with private equity and private capital and the risk and why people would have a knee-jerk, pretty averse reaction to that. I get it. I do. But I think this is important for you to hear that seems like just a reality that it's going to be in the sport, no matter what it is that you ultimately really think about it. So there is that. We're still not done, by the way, with Ross Dellinger's story. Okay, I've got one more chunk of that to get to with you all. But we also have the Cody Campbell story here in just a moment. But I do want to take a second to say, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Big audience here tonight. Those of you who are here from Twitter, it would be great if you could go to youtube.com, search John Kurtz, subscribe to the channel, like the video. But also, if you are on Twitter, make sure you subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. I've got one coming in your inbox tomorrow morning. You get it multiple times per week, totally free. 4,000 plus Big 12 fans are reading the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. So I would appreciate very much anybody who would subscribe. You can do so at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of this video. There's a lot going on. Indeed, Starter 179, there is a lot going on. So, look, I told you the other day, when Nick Saban started backpedaling on this presidential commission on college sports, it seemed like the SEC was scared of what Cody Campbell and the Big 12 could do. We now have confirmation of that through 2 articles, one from Yahoo, one from CBS. Confirmed the SEC and Big 10 are worried about the potential Big 10 or the Big 12 influence, rather, of Cody Campbell, Texas Tech multi-billionaire booster, on this presidential commission because he seems to be the one leading it. And now that commission is paused. Coincidence or not? I guess you can be the judge after I go through this story here. Okay, so I'm going to jump back and forth between the Yahoo story and the CBS story. The Yahoo story is this: plans for a presidential commission on college sports, co-led by former Alabama head coach Nick Saban, have been paused. He leaves out that the other co-head there would be Cody Campbell, Texas Tech multi-billionaire booster. The move is possibly rooted in the commission's potential impact on current Senate negotiations over legislation in the same sphere. So they don't want to double dip here. They're going to let Senate negotiations over legislation go on for right now and pause the commission. It's unclear how long the pause will last, but it will give a group of 5 senators, including Ted Cruz and Cory Booker, more time to reach an agreement on legislation for a sport whose leaders have been begging for federal intervention in recent years. Okay. That's what you got there. Man. Well, that's frustrating because the excitement here was about the fact that everything you had been reading was Nick Saban backing away from this, which to me showed some trepidation from the SEC and Big Ten. But beyond just that, it's also the idea that, like, hey, Cody Campbell now seems to be like the lead dog. Like the lead dog. It seemed like a guy who we know has a direct line to the president, reported by Yahoo's Ross Dellinger. I think you probably could have figured that out anyway. Multi-billionaire guy. That's going to be somebody that Trump likes to hang out with. He had a front row seat to Donald Trump's ear about what could happen, what could change here. And while there are a lot of things that I think Cody Campbell agrees on with the SEC and Big Ten, one thing they don't is, again, that Project Rudy model and idea where, hey, let's take 70 teams, pool the media rights, and then divide up into like more regional conferences. Everybody makes more money. We kind of do away with the conference models that we have right now. And the SEC and Big Ten lose some relative power while a lot of their schools would actually make more money. Better for the overall sport. And it seemed like, hey, we're getting a little uneasy with that. But it was easy to build excitement as a Big 12 fan because you're like, man, this seems kind of like a Hail Mary. Like out of nowhere, you've now had a real chance to build some influence when it seemed like you were totally screwed and locked out for the future because of the Big Ten and the SEC. CBS did say presidential commission could return within the next 90 days, though no promises from the White House have been made. But how about this? Okay. Another thing from the CBS article. CBS said, confidence that the commission focused on regulating college sports would gain bipartisan support was waning. And the Big Ten and SEC, the two most powerful conferences in college athletics, opposed commission leader Cody Campbell's notions behind the scenes, according to multiple sources familiar within the situation. There you have it. Folks, I told it to you before that. I didn't even have inside info. I'm just reading what is happening. I'm analyzing what is happening for you. It was very easy to see. The Big Ten and the SEC opposed commission leader Cody Campbell's notions behind the scenes. One high-ranking official told CBS Sports this week their nightmare was seeing Campbell arm in arm with Trump and completely reversing the years of work that have gone into supporting a new era of college sports that is expected to soon allow universities to pay their athletes directly. Well, I don't think Cody Campbell was trying to shut down paying athletes directly, but Cody Campbell would have derailed a lot of work that has gone into making the Big Ten and the SEC untouchable, too big to fail. Those who are ruling everything in college sports. That's what could have been undone. Maybe could still be undone if this commission does actually happen. And if you thought that was it, there's still more here. Lots in this CBS article. It says the presidential commission also faced opposition on the ground, sources told CBS Sports. Campbell's public push to pool conferences' media rights to help smaller leagues facing financial trouble was of great concern to the Big Ten and the SEC, the two richest conferences in the country. Sources within those conferences believe Campbell's primary goal was to prop up Texas Tech, his alma mater, the Big 12, and smaller group of 5 schools at the expense of what the Big Ten and SEC are trying to accomplish. The two richest and most powerful conferences had zero desire to see any of their hard-earned money be redirected to the New Mexicos and UTEPs of the world just because it might benefit the system. Well, first of all, New Mexico and UTEP, that seems unfair. Okay? That seems unfair to make them take a stray bullet out of absolutely nowhere there. But anyway, here is the argument that I always make with this. That seems so short-sighted to me from the SEC and Big Ten. You need, maybe not the New Mexicos and UTEPs of the world, maybe not, but the SEC and Big Ten definitely long-term need the Texas Techs of the world. They sure as hell need the Texas Techs of the world. If you cut out everybody but the top 30 teams, you will lose interest. That will be a slow burn over time. You will lose interest. The product will become less valuable. And long-term, now when you have private equity debts that are building up, you're going to be making less money. And it will be bad for you. It is a bad long-term sustainable thing here. It is greed. It is greed. It is greed. It is greed. If you would just stay right now and be like, hey, Project Rudy format, we're still going to make a ton of money. We'll still have advantages. We'll still be in a great place. And we can enjoy this in perpetuity. But that's not enough. And this is kind of the story of just human nature, right? It's never enough. And so it's what money and power can I grab right now? Can I grab more and more and more and more and more and more until I've changed the sport irreversibly? I've cut out too many people. And now this thing won't be followed by as many people long term, which hurts my bottom line eventually. Writing checks now that your ass can't cash in 2035. I mean, that's the idea here. So it's so infuriating to me to see this idea that like, oh yeah, well we don't want to subsidize you guys right now. You need them. You need them. You don't think you do, but you need them. You need them. You need the whole college football ecosystem. That's what's made it a sport that everybody loves. Okay? And that's the truth. Now, Cody Campbell and Ted Cruz both had some tweets in response to this article, trying to just smooth things over a little bit, I guess I would say. So here, let me share the Cody Campbell tweet. So Ted Cruz quotes the article and says, "This article is nonsense. Cody and Nick are terrific and both good friends. I welcome the commission, Cody Campbell says, "This is very good news. We all need to work together and set aside selfish agendas, tribalism, and politics to preserve the life-changing opportunity that college sports provide. Thanks at Ted Cruz." They're trying to play nice there. Okay. For what it's worth, they're trying to play nice. A little bit more here. If you want to know what Yahoo said about this and their confirmation of what I said, that the SEC Big Ten were a little bit scared of Cody Campbell and what he could do, Dellinger said planning for the commission had reached the point that President Donald Trump and Texas businessman Cody Campbell had started to pool recommendations for membership and send out invitations to stakeholders. The commission was also paused amid private concerns from Big Ten and SEC officials over its concepts, and after Saban outright questioned the necessity of its existence. You guys remember that? We've already done shows on that, how Saban all of a sudden was like completely walking this back, like, hey, wait, I don't even know that we need a commission. And I told you, guys, I'm telling you, like, this stuff is just, it's very transparent. It's easy to see. You can call me conspiratorial, whatever it is that you want. Apparently some out there calling me a grifter, like whatever it is you want to call it. But here it is. This is what I was saying. Like Saban was trying to walk it back because they were looking around like, whoa, wait. We can fix this without a commission. We don't need the Big 12 getting a guy that's going to be right in President Trump's ear on this thing. We don't need that. Now here it is. All confirmation coming from Yahoo and CBS. So, what does this mean now going forward? I mean, I think if you're a Big 12 fan, if you're an ACC fan, if you're a fan of anybody but a Big 10 or an SEC school, you definitely just want to hope that this presidential commission comes back around. I'm not totally holding my breath on that. I have some level of optimism, but there are just so many other things that obviously the administration has to deal with on a daily basis that I felt like, your chance was to get in now, get it cooking, get it rolling fast, and get something moving. Whereas the longer this has to drag out and you have to wait and other things will just come up in the course of governing a country, like, gives me some pause of where it all could go in the future. But for now, it is at least, I would say, take solace in this, Big 12 fans. It's a sign of some hope, and it's a sign that you really legitimately got under the Big 10 and SEC skin and made them feel a bit threatened. And it's resulted now in Greg Sankey just straight up freaking lying about press releases and making up his own propaganda to take shots at you. If he wasn't concerned, he would not feel the need to take shots and lie. If he wasn't concerned, that would not be something that would have to happen from Sankey. So anyway, have I mentioned that we ride with Cody Campbell? Ladies and gentlemen? Because we ride here with Cody Campbell. If you want to make sure your question or comment makes it on the show tonight, click the $ below the chat box to submit a super chat. Appreciate you guys who support that way. You can also hit me up on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4 if you would like to submit a question or comment there as well. That's for those of you not able to catch the show live. I'll kick off the next show with your question or comment if you do that. So appreciate everybody who does. And make sure to like the video. That's a totally free way to support the channel. So is subscribing to the channel, which many of you do not. Okay. I appreciate that many of you do subscribe, but many do not. Also, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. OFBnews.com to do that. OFBnews.com. Big 12 news to your inbox. Breaking down big stories like this, how they affect the Big 12 specifically, twice a week for free. 4,000 plus Big 12 subscribers right now. Appreciate everybody who does subscribe, but always room for more. So, all right, last thing here tonight. Last thing. This is the analogy I continue to use. Greg Sankey is the most powerful man in college sports. I cannot dispute that. Supreme Leader Sankey, most powerful man in all of college sports, and he's standing with a big fat bottle of toothpaste, hand on it, ready to squeeze out a bunch of toothpaste that you will never be putting back in the tube, right? Are we just days or weeks from this whole thing changing forever? We will find out very soon. We'll find out very soon. Here's the last section or sections of Ross Dellinger's big article about the war, quote unquote. That is not my word. That's the word of a Big 12 athletic director. The war that is going on between the SEC, Big 10, and everybody else. In Destin this week, SEC administrators are expected to examine the governance proposal and the possibility of separating football completely from under the NCAA. So they're going to be talking about, do we take football completely out of the purview of the NCAA, make it a totally separate thing? During its spring meetings last week, the Big Ten swung its support for doing just that. They want to separate football and football governance. In an unreported and little-known fact, SEC presidents in March quietly authorized their commissioner, Sankey, to split from the NCAA if he deems that the right move. So again, I say, Greg Sankey, the most powerful man in college sports, he has been authorized to, hey, we can just detach from the NCAA if we need to. If that's what I think is best, we can do that. Like, these guys truly do hold all the cards. You think about how consequential these decisions are. Not just, I mean, we've already talked about the playoff and what is going to happen there. We haven't gotten into the NIL and the, signing your rights away from being able to sue if you don't like that your state laws can't save you from the NIL Deloitte operation. On top of that, they're talking about separating football out from every other sport. And I mean, you think about what a consequential, monumental change that would be for everything. Like, that's one of the things that is just low key, as the kids would say, like low key hanging in the balance right now. And look, it's hard to argue that in a lot of ways, I mean, you maybe need to govern football a little bit differently. Like, a part of this is like, hey, if you were just doing football differently with all the conferences and the travel, and you could still keep together a Pac-12 in non-revenue sports or whatever, so they're not having to fly from LA to Piscataway on a Tuesday to go play a volleyball game or something like that. There are a lot of things that would make more sense if you separated it out that way. I do get it. But if you do pull it out from the NCAA, then it's also like you have this, I mean, it starts to feel more and more like this is just the USFL, the XFL, just another professional sports league that's a professional football league, rather, that's not the NFL. So, I don't know, man. Dellinger says there are gripes over the NCAA's new governance proposal from both the power leagues, believing that 65. Okay. Yeah. Let's set this part up. So a part of what Dellinger talks about is that the NCAA's new governance proposal gives 65% basically of the voting and decision-making power to the Power Four conferences. So they've got a 65% pull there. And in true college sports fashion, that 65% made everybody mad. It made everybody mad for different reasons. The power conferences think that 65% isn't enough, that they need even more decision-making power. And then everybody else looked at it and said, you're giving the power conferences way too much power. Like, they're going to screw everything up even more if they have 65% of the power here. So nobody's happy. And the NCAA can't seem to figure this out or, govern in a way that's going to bring some order to everything. That is exactly where we're at in college sports, man. That is like college sports in a freaking nutshell right now. At least 3 commissioners of non-FBS conferences have publicly criticized the model, this 65% thing. At least one of them fearing that the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and ACC will use their voting block to restructure the men's basketball tournament. The NCAA's only real moneymaker by impacting automatic qualifiers and revenue payouts for the lower leagues. Now, make no mistake, this is one of those things that would suck for everyone. This would be a bad thing for the long term of the NCAA tournament and college sports. But in the short term, it could definitely benefit your Power Four conferences. And even as a Big 12 fan, the Big 12 would stand to benefit from this if the tournament expanded, if they changed how they're doling out more bids, give more bids to power conference teams, which ergo means more money. That's all good for the Big 12, but I do not want this. And this is where I would make the point. Like SEC, Big 10 fans, you can stand up and say, hey, while this would benefit my league in the short term, I do not believe this to be in the best long-term interest of the sport and everything that is happening around this. And even my own self-interest long-term. We don't need to destroy the NCAA basketball tournament. We don't need to push toothpaste out of that tube that we can't get back in and screw with the NCAA basketball tournament, which is just perfect already. We don't need to do that. So even though Brett Yormark is on board for that, he's pushing for something that he thinks would be better for his conference short term here. I believe it is short-sighted. I believe it is something that is not great for everybody long term. I would not support that at all. And I can definitely share in the concern of the non-FBS conferences that have publicly criticized all this and people that would be really, really worried about it. Big Sky Conference Commissioner Tom Wistrell is one who spoke to this, who said, quote, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Man, that's a bar right there. That is a bar from Tom Wistrell. There's going to be no checks and balances for them. There's going to be no limit to what the Power 2 can do if you give them any more. Tough to disagree, man. Tough to disagree. There is not any limit as to what they can do, as we're seeing by this battle where they're going to push through, in all likelihood, these 4 auto bids. The Power 4 conferences have their own issues with the model. At 65%, all 4 leagues must vote the same way to pass an issue, which, of course, seems like a problem right now when they are literally at war with each other. So it's a potential impediment to legislation, given the growing schism between the big 2 and the other 2. So, yeah, I mean, all this is just, when people talk about college sports being a mess, like this is a true and total mess. Hey, gridlock, can't get anything done, 65%. We don't need to vote together. We can't get along. Absolute power, corrupting absolutely the Big 10 and the SEC with what they're trying to do. Group of 6 and smaller are all being left totally in the dust, man. I mean, there's so much that is just a complete and total mess. There's a little bit of talk here from Dellinger about the revenue sharing cap and the Deloitte run NIL clearinghouse that's supposed to legislate fair market value. Says, what happens when those deals are rejected? Will there be more lawsuits? Quote, we have to decide if we want to be governed, Illinois Athletic Director Josh Whitman said. I mean, wouldn't that be a nice place to be? You've got so much power, I guess, if you're the SEC and the Big Ten right now, that you can just say, hey, we get to decide if we want to be governed. Maybe we don't want to be governed. You know, maybe we just want to do our own thing and say, forget any kind of governing body here. You know, screw you guys. We're gonna just do our own thing. Must be nice. What a world. What a world. There's a question posed here. We get a Mac Rhodes quote from Baylor Athletic Director. Will this NIL clearinghouse be able to stop agreements that are not fair market value, or will it, like many suspect, be sued into oblivion? Quote, that is the $100 million question. Baylor Athletic Director Mac Rhodes said, I'll say this, it has to work. For this to be a good settlement, that component has to work, and I think it is the most important. Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't work, you're right back to this wild pay-for-play model that we're in right now, and the arms race will just never, ever stop. And if you want evidence of the arms race, perfect example, actually, is what happened today with PJ Haggerty at K-State, who's a top 5 player in the portal. He signed for, according to Adam Zagoria, a $2 million deal that has $500,000 in incentives. Okay, that's more money than Coleman Hawkins made last year when he signed at K-State. And the narrative on PJ Haggerty is that it's a bargain. Jeff Goodman was out there agreeing with someone on Twitter that it was a bargain at $2.5 million. Last year at this time, K-State signed Coleman Hawkins for $2 million, and it was a story because that was this gross overpay and way too much money, and that followed Hawkins the entire year. Guys, it's been 1 year. And we went from $2 million being a gross overpay to $2.5 million being a bargain for a top flight player in the portal. So that will just continue. If you don't get this under control, that will continue. Teams will need more money. You'll invest more in private equity. And that's the road you're headed down. If the NIL clearinghouse, Deloitte, doesn't actually have any teeth, if they can't enforce this. So let's be perfectly clear about where that's going. There's a quote here from former Duke and Notre Dame athletic director Kevin White, who says we're approaching an irreconcilable position between the academy and college athletics. That is frightening. Oh man, we're right at an hour. I told you guys, this is a loaded story here. There's a lot going on, and we're gonna wrap it up with a super chat from Alan. Appreciate you, Alan. Great to see you here, as always. Alan says, John, great show. Agree with you on preserving the soul of college football. Private equity is a great idea, but there will be a first mover advantage, so Yormark should not delay. Yes, and Yormark has basically said before that he knows that, and he does not want to delay. He wants to be a first mover on that. I think Foley would be the guy you would think that would make that type of move first. Will it happen? We'll see. We've gotten a couple reports of stories that they're meeting with people over the last year or two about that, but it's been a little quiet on that outside of Dellinger just saying they've been meeting with the Super League private equity groups. So, we'll see. Looking forward to the KU Mizzou game. Me too, Alan. Love that. A lot of great memories. A lot of great memories of watching that growing up in Kansas City. As much as I was a K-State guy, KU Mizzou was awesome. I mean, especially there when Mangino was there and the games were getting heated. When you had Mangino and Gary Pinkel going at it. Obviously, the game at Arrowhead that everybody remembers, but there was the Arrowhead game the next year when Todd Reesing had that late touchdown pass. I think that was to Kerry Meyer, right, to win the game. I mean, those were awesome. I really enjoyed that. So, yes, very excited to be getting KU Mizzou back at it and back going. Preserve the soul of college football and college sports, Alan. We would have KU and Mizzou in the same conference playing every single year if we truly cared about preserving the soul. But here we are. Appreciate you as always, Alan. Thank you for your support of the channel, my friend. Thank you for being here. Thank all of you for being here. People starting to head out. It's been an hour. Huge audience tonight. Thank you, everybody. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of this video. Join 4,000 other Big 12 fans who do. Please like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel on your way out. And, I will talk to you all soon. Hope you have a great week. I was about to say, have a nice Sunday, but it is Monday. Hope you had a great Memorial Day. And, have a good week. We will chat very soon.